Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, where we motivate, we inspire, and we educate you. And today, no different. We got the one and only Mr. Gary Barnes. I had the pleasure of meeting this man at an epic event here. We shared the stage. And I'll tell you what, he dropped some wisdom. He was amazing. And woo, enough of me rambling, Gary. Let's welcome you to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. Let's give you a big round of applause, man. Woohoo! Who is Gary Barnes? Welcome to the Daniel Gomez Show, my friend.
Well, dude, I am very impressed. That's the first time I've had applause on a podcast. And, this is really, really special.
Well, let me give you another one.
More the merrier. I mean, it's almost like when people applaud before you speak and you go, I haven't said anything yet. Are you sure? And so way back in the day, I would have appreciated that before I gave a sermon. But, they're always wondering about what was going to be said. But, I consider myself the guy next door, the kid next door. My whole mission and purpose is to inspire people to motivate themselves and to become who they were intended to be. And I've owned businesses. I'm one of the largest financial planning firms. I spent 9 years in real estate. I'm going to figure out who I am when I grow up. I'm a certified police officer. I've been trained as a hospital chaplain. I love people. I have lived my entire life and built my businesses by the Will Rogers School of Thought, which is, well, one of them was there are no strangers, just friends that I have not met yet.
I love it, man. Well, I'll tell you what, I love, man. I just bonded with you because I think the topic I want to cover with you today, you saying a financial planner, there's a lot of wisdom in finances, and so many people, stuff that you shared on stage when you spoke, it was just like, wow, I love, like, everything you're saying resonated with me because I teach a lot of that. As a matter of fact, I got my new course here coming out in 2022. I'm excited about it. But it's people have the wrong relationship with money, Gary.
They do.
And if people have the wrong relationship with money, they don't realize that that's going to affect their business more. They can go, I want your opinion on this because I'm going to get straight to the meat and potatoes of this. People go get all these certifications. They go get all these skills. They go to all these conferences and they go to all these courses. They have the skill set. They have the knowledge, but they have the wrong relationship with money. How does that affect them, Gary? Let's get to it, baby. Come on.
I grew up, my mother was a banker, but she did not teach us about money. I mean, there's the things that you don't talk about. A lot of families don't talk about it is sex, money, and religion. And that is really bad and then you throw in politics on top of that. But the thing is, people were learning from people that also did not know. And so you have a bunch of lemmings following each other into the darkness. And it's really horrible. But, the reality is money is a made up commodity, whether it be seashells, gemstones. I am a certified gold exchanger where we would exchange airplanes and gemstones and cars and real estate. And I mean, it just, in fact, at the event where you and I were, a lot of you guys are car guys. And I grew up in a service station. My dad owned service stations in Southern California. So I should be a car guy, but I'm an airplane guy. I love airplanes. And my dad crashed 2 of them. Maybe that's why I need to carry on the legacy, keep them in the air. But, I asked, what is when you look for a value of the car, you go to the Kelly Blue Book. And I said, guys, who's Kelly? What gives them the information that tells what the value of anything is, or our houses? Look at what has happened in real estate. And I remember when I sold real estate in Southern California way back in the day, I sold about $5 million worth of properties in 1 year, every year, with the average price home of $29,000 to $30,000. Now look at those houses. You could have buy, the mailbox for that. And so
Boom, baby, right? now you just get the little plot, the little planner in the corner.
the doghouse and back.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen,
And so,
Gary's getting ready to drop some more wisdom. So this is the part of the show where I tell you, get out your pen, get out your papers, because you do not want to miss what he's going to say. Take a moment, sit down at your desk, sit down at your kitchen table and write these notes down, because what he's going to drop on this show today, something magical happens when you put pen to paper. Get out your pen and paper right now, because Gary's going to drop some wisdom. Go ahead, Gary. Go ahead, my man.
well, the thing is that 80% of any success is psychological and emotional, 20% tactical in my experience. And that is no different when it comes to money. I wrote my second book is called Spend and Grow Rich. And the idea of that book is, why do some people spend and grow poor and other people spend and grow rich? It's the order in which we do it. It's the purpose. I was on a cruise speaking a number of years ago to.
So what do you mean by that? So let's take it, because I want to drop some wisdom. Spend and Grow Rich. I love the title of the book, first of all. See, I got to go to Amazon and get that for my dear friend Gary, because I tell you, he's real, he's genuine. So let's slow down here a little bit. Why do some people spend and grow rich and some spend and go poor?
Basically because their attitude is, we're a microwave society. And so when you look at the lottery winners, they go out and spend it all. Actually, they spend more than they receive before you see the list of the things they're doing. I call it new rich, or it doesn't even have to be a large amount of money, but there's an attitude, if I don't spend it, something is going to come along and take it. Yeah. And in business, we do the same thing, or we're hoping. We'll use money to look for a savior. Years ago, I had one of my personal coaches told me I had to become a savior to my business coaching clients. And I went, what are you talking about? That's wrong. But people are looking for that. So they'll throw money up on the wall, hoping that they can get something that they are wanting to receive in their business, in their relationships, whatever it may be. But when we realize money is an inanimate object, I hold up a dollar. I did this at the event. I hold up $100 bill and I go, is this logical or emotional? And I usually get 50-50 in the room saying one or the other. And in reality, it's a piece of paper with ink on it. If we treat it logically, it'll treat us back logically. I also, I use the same inscription. When I launch a book, the first time I autograph it, I have an inscription that pops into my head. And the inscription in that book is, you're paying the price today for a priceless tomorrow. Amen. And most people right now are just wanting that immediate gratification, that quick hit, that endorphin that we get from spending money. And when we look at advertisers, going back to the 1950s, the old quote ad men.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Because you're dropping a lot of wisdom. You're going at a great pace here, but I want to slow down. So people, let's take a moment and circle back to the instant gratification. They want their business to grow. They want to be successful, whether it's a financial planner, a speaker, whatever it may be. They might want to sell cupcakes, but they don't. They get in business, and they only come in business, say, for 3 months, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to give up. Forget it. This isn't working out." And they haven't even given it a time to just really blossom and grow. And then like what you're saying, they spend one time, right? So going back to the money thing that we're our primary focus here on the show is, they make one marketing budget that they spend. We'll just say they spend $1,000, which isn't a lot of money, but they expect that $1,000 investment to produce millions and millions of sales. I'm exaggerating here, but then they never really invest again. And I always come back to, hey, before you sell one hamburger at McDonald's, you've paid $1 million for that franchise. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? Because I love what you're saying. They want that instant gratification. They want that instant business. And sometimes we don't have this. Let's face it. I think for me, the journey that I've been on more now that I've been in business for myself, because I've ran multi-million-dollar businesses, but it's different when it's your business. It's different because it falls on your shoulders and your mindset and how you spend. It's easier to spend money, right? $1 million of the owner's dealership money than my money, which we did it month in and month out. But when it's your money and it's $500, you're like, uh-oh. Talk to us about that. Why do you, how do we overcome that? Or how can we really just not have that instant gratification? Say, hey, it's an investment in your business and in you.
Well, it is a mindset. I remember a post on social media recently from a friend of both of ours, Tony Wadley. And he said, people, when say crypto has crept into the society. And when crypto is going up, everybody's on social media, get into it. And when it's going down, everybody is silent. And so what we have this innate, well, it's really a hope. And when we really look at what it is that, let's say we want to have $1 million. I ask some of my clients, they say, I want to be a millionaire. I go, how do you become a millionaire? And they go, well, I don't know. I go, you first become a dollar heir, a $10 heir, $100 heir, $1,000 heir, 10,000, 100,000, and then you keep duplicating it. But they don't understand. It's what I call the gestation period. Farmers understand this. You plant a crop and then you nurture the crop and then you have a harvest. In our society, we're really not patient. We want that hit, and we're also, what is it that we want the money to do? There's a process that I call so what to a so that. When I was speaking on that cruise to financial planners,
yes,
there was a guy.
So wait. So that's, I love you because you're dropping. I mean, you have a lot of wisdom. Just the justification. Let's slow down and take a moment on the justification, because I think that's huge, right? Explain to us, what is the justification? I don't want to butcher the word you said, but I know what you're talking about. What's that word again? You said.
Well, let's go back to the word that I use around this is rationalize. We rationalize.
No, when you plant a seed, seed.
Oh, gestation.
Gestation, yes.
It's like when you plant a seed, there's a time of growth, no matter what. That gestation period for babies is 9 months. You plant the seed, 9 months later, you have a child. And everything, the whole world works around gestation, that there's ebbs and flows. You look at this, the gestation period, and what is terrible sometimes is that sometimes you get a win that's really large too soon. And you think that's the way it's going to be all the time. You probably have seen salespeople in the automobile industry that come in and they're the shining stars, and then 2 months later, they're no longer in the business because they thought it was always going to be that way. They just happened to hit the cycle in the right way. And, it truly is that mindset, is that there is a time that it takes for us. Well, let's go back to, business and relationships to receive money from clients. The nurturing the relationships that are built. You don't go into Starbucks and go, hi, my name's Gary, will you marry me? And here's the contract, press our 3 copies. But how much of the attitude do we have in business is just like that?
Well, I love what you're saying, because the gestation, listen to what he's saying, ladies and gentlemen. You plant a seed, maybe it's a financial seed, maybe whatever seed it is. But I think so many times, Gary, is we plant a seed and then we look over and we see Gary like, wow, Gary's tree's already blooming. But we don't realize that Gary planted a seed 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and we just planted our seed 3 months ago. So you have to give your seed time to die, to germinate, to grow. The gestation, like Gary just said. But I think so many times we fall into that trap of comparison. A good example is we're in that event, right, where we're speaking at, and man, you've been speaking for decades, and it's like, I love the way you spoke. But so many people will come in. I remember one of the mistakes I made. I came in and it's like, you see this person and that person, and I'll see a Gary and be like, man, I want to be like Gary. But we don't see the investment that you've made monetarily in yourself. We don't see the work that you've done. The gestation, right? It took time. The seed was planted. It had to grow. It went through a process, and many of us, we want to stop the process. And I love what we're talking about, because I think, like you said, we plant the seed and then we get that big win up or too early. I see, this is what I've seen, and help me on this, is that sometimes when you get that big win, if you've never had, just say $10,000 in 1 month, you get this $10,000, and either two things happen, because you self-sabotage yourself, going back to the money issue, because we don't know how to receive in larger quantities of money. We made 10,000. That's more than we've ever made. So we've made that before. We were at 2,000 a month. Now we're at 10,000. Now in our mind, subconsciously, it's already there. Man, I got enough money for 5 months. Or the other thing that happens is this is like, oh, I can't receive that money. And then next thing you know, it's like, this is too good to be true. Well, then guess what? The universe says, well, your wish is my command. And then our car breaks down and it's a $3,000 bill or the water heater goes out. But in reality, you created that scenario for you because you don't know how to receive in those larger amounts of finances, of monies. Does that make sense?
It does. And it's really not even the larger amounts. Last night I was working with a new client and they were talking about working some of the people they have worked with, they call circular millionaires, where it's people who create wealth and they lose it, create wealth and they lose it. And what I really look at is how to make money sticky. And when you really look at the transition from a so what, $1 million, so what? It's just a number. It's candy, cotton candy. It's a cloud. To a so that. What does the money do? What is the purpose of it? What is the real benefit of having this? Because most people worry about not having money. And they go, if I just had money, I wouldn't worry anymore. And that's false. All they'd be doing is worrying about not losing the money then. It didn't do them any good at all. And in essence, in my
That was a boom, baby. I love that.
it just, whatever you have right now, the more you receive, the more you're going to have as a mindset later on. So the very first thing we have to do is build a relationship of what money is, why we are going through the struggle, if you will, the process of really receiving it, and then having that purpose drive us and being willing to take that time for the gestation to happen, to really have an abundance. Warren Buffett actually said wealth is not created by the return on investment, but the accumulation of earned dollars. Think about that. It's if people want this return, this magical put in a dollar. Also, you think about, tithing has always been talked about. You invest 10%, you give 10%, you get back tenfold. It's not a vending machine. It's not that's not the way it works. It comes back in all kinds of different directions, whether it be money, relationship, in every area of life.
So let me ask you this, because I love what you're talking about, right? So when it comes to money, what are the three things that you see in business that are the hardest thing for we'll just say life and business, right? Not just money, but I think because if you're a small business owner, you are the problem. I mean, it's the truth.
And the solution.
And the solution, yeah. So what are the three things that you see that most people have to overcome? And let's talk about that a bit. What would be the top three things that you see that people have that block in their relationship with money and how they see it?
The first thing is the negative beliefs that is pretty universal. I have clients in 9 different countries and it's all over, but North America is really bad. And that is that they don't feel like they deserve. And because of that, they have this come towards me, stay away, come towards me, stay away. And they will self-sabotage whatever it is, because the belief is that they can see it for others, but they cannot see it for themselves. The second thing I think is, that really see themselves in a future state with a benefit that it's going to actually change who they in their state of, let's say that we've always lived in a 1,000 square foot home or a 700 square foot home. And all of a sudden we have that ability to buy the 4, 5, 6,000 square foot home if that's what is needed, whatever the rationale, and there's no judgment or whatever. But all of a sudden they don't feel like it's a fit for them. So their mental image doesn't meet their physical manifestation. And this again, going back to the lottery winners. And then the third thing is the concept of investing money or investing time, which is also in my mind an asset. And so when we look at that, instead of just spending, so if we were putting money into our business, and like what I think you had mentioned earlier, when people have a hard time taking $500 and putting it into marketing or to a coach or to whatever it is, they see it as spending instead of investing. Because when you invest, you're expecting a rate of return. Now, if they're putting it in things that they can have a predictable rate of return, then maybe you need to look at where you're putting your trust, your goals, and how people are where you're actually placing those dollars. But I think those three things really are the things that hang people up from receiving what is actually there. There is abundance in the world. That you know,
Yes.
we look around and people really don't see that because we watch the news, we talk to our neighbors, and we're some of the biggest adversities in my life has created more wealth than I could have ever imagined if I had stayed in the same place.
And I agree with you. There's opportunity. There's money everywhere. There's wealth everywhere. There's success everywhere. Listen to what Gary's saying, ladies and gentlemen. And the one that I want to hone in is number one. You are deserving of being successful. You are deserving of accumulating wealth. You are deserving of having $500, $1,000 cash in your pocket. There's nothing wrong with that. So ask yourself that. Write this question down right now. What is my relationship with money? What is my real relationship with money? Because this is a funny thing, Gary. Is everybody wants to be wealthy, everybody wants to be rich on the surface, but then when they get to it, they start to self-sabotage themselves because they guess what? They don't feel that they're deserving. That was me. I was right. We have our financial thermostat at a certain level, and then once we make more than that, we're like, oh well, this is too good to be true, or man, I don't want to. Or we have that belief where we saw that behavior modeled that our mom and dads would fight about money. So all of a sudden you have money in your possession, and then you start arguing with your own spouse or your kids about dumb things when it's like, just do it, right? But this is what was modeled in front of us. So ask yourself right now, what is your relationship with money? And then I would even take it a step further. I would say this: write down what did I learn from my mom and dad about money? Think about that. What did I learn about money from my mom and dad? How did they react? And I say that, Gary, because I remember being a little kid. We had this little meat market grocery store at the corner, and we had credit there because my dad got paid every Thursday. So between paydays, we would go there and we would hang out at this grocery store and get whatever groceries we needed, right? So it was cool. But then one day I was like, "Hey, let's go to." I never did this, but one day after school, I told my friend, "Hey, let's go get a Coke." He goes, "You got money?" I go, "No, but I can go get a soda there because my dad's gonna pay it on Thursday." Man, I'll tell you what. I went there, got the soda, came back that following Thursday. My old man went out there and paid the bill, and he was pissed. He was mad. He got on all of us. I guess just the bill was bigger, and he was just more than what he expected. And like it made me like see it different. It made me he got his tonality. He was arguing with my mom and arguing with us. And when I realized, going back to that memory, that moment was impacting me so much as a kid in second, third grade, that when I got to that adult age and I started responsible for my family, I was acting the same way because that's what I learned from my dad.
Mhm.
And it's like, then my kids, they're like, well, don't talk to dad about money because he might get upset, right? It's a it's a subject that they didn't want to approach me on until recently. Like I would say these past 2 years, where it's like, we have enough for all of us. But I had to really be intentional about changing the behaviors that I had about money to my children because they were learning that, and that's what keeps them in bondage. Does that make
You know,
sense?
it does. And you're using a word that is so critical. And that word is wealth, not rich.
Yes.
Rich is a number, wealth is a state of being. And so when we look at wealth, it's about having health. It's about having the security. When I say security, it's not in money, but in we live in an area of town, or we have we're able to be safe for us and our families, and we have the ability to it's very difficult in the world today to be healthy and poor. You're not eating the best foods. You don't have any time. You're usually working one or two, three jobs. There's no time to really take care of yourself. And so we're just, using ourselves up. So when we really look at wealth in a different way, that it is all encompassing, including relationships, then that's when we can really truly embrace it as a lifestyle, not as a point in time.
Yeah. Well, I love what you're saying because it's so many people don't realize that they have the financial success to say, but their relationships suck. Or they have the financial success and their health is deteriorated. I have a friend of mine right now that I haven't approached him yet, but I can see it, right? Just in the pictures that he posted on Facebook. I mean, he's doing really, really well, but he's not helping me. I mean, he's gained about 15, 20 pounds and you can see it. It's just, they're always like, you talk to them, oh, we're busy, we're tired, we're busy, we're tired. But they start to believe that mindset. And guess what? They create that reality for themselves.
Well, I ask audiences all the time, are you wealthy? And most of the time they'll say no. I said, who are you comparing it to? What was your measuring stick? If you're comparing yourself to a family in the Sudan who have $200 a year for the family, are you wealthy? You're in the top, 4 to 5% of wealth in the world. If you're comparing yourself to Bill Gates, no. But what is your yardstick? So we don't have that. I also, I had a mentor in my chaplaincy training that said, unless you're okay where you are, you have no choice to move forward. You have no ability to give yourself permission to change. And that's where in that moment, we were working with addictions, but money can become an addiction. Yeah. And so wherever we are, if we're okay where we are, because this is just whatever the reality is, now we have permission to do something different. Now we can use that as a platform to grow from. And that's where the permission comes in to receive. Once we believe that in the receiving is not making more money, making money, you go to jail. It's called counterfeiting. You don't do that. But when we start really realizing that abundance is there, if we are really becoming aware of looking and taking in the opportunities that we have around us, it's amazing what will happen. And it goes back to permission to receive, and instead of the feeling of not deserving and pushing it away.
So why do you, I'm glad we're talking about this. Why do you think people feel they're not deserving of it? Why do you feel that? I mean, I'll give you my perspective because I went through this myself, but share some wisdom with the audience, please.
For me, it really, I think, comes back to our families. And there was a change in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And I remember my mother, my dad owned service stations. So, I mean, they were doing really well. I remember my mother my dad saying, we have $10,000 in the bank. And in my adult life, I was looking back and going, well, that's not a lot of money. But back in the 60s, you could buy 3 homes in California for that. I mean, it was just like, that was a lot of money. But yet my mother was going and spending hours using coupons and spending more money to save money. And she had this belief that if she had it, somebody was going to come and take it. And actually, at the end of her life, a troop of gypsies, literal gypsies, stole everything. And so that we are learning this again, like what you said, from our parents.
Yes.
From it's a pattern, and it's a pattern that we can break.
Yeah. So I want you to hear this, ladies and gentlemen. What makes you feel undeserving of being successful, right? And I know Gary gave his description, his definition of wealth, but wealth does include money. I mean, right. The people that say right, money doesn't make you happy, they've never had enough money to know whether it did or didn't. Think about that, right? People that say money isn't important, money doesn't make you happy, have never had that amount of money to either know whether it was true or not. And people say it because it's a learned behavior. And listen to what Gary's saying. You are worthy. You are deserving of this success. So many times God wants to bless you and give you that promotion at work and just really apply for that higher position. And if you're that corporate employee, you're like, well, I'm not qualified. I don't have a degree. God's not limited by your degree. That's one way of saying you're not deserving of it. God qualifies the unqualified. And if you're in business and maybe you're scared to go approach that higher upper end client, guess what? They need you. You never know what you bring on. I never forget this, Gary. When I went to when I first started speaking, I was a real good friend of mine, mentor of mine, James Denley, multimillionaire. I was like, God, well, what do I bring that they don't have to the table, right? They're already successful. I'm on the outside looking in. I'm like, how am I going to start up a conversation? God says, you have your gift, pray for them. I said, okay. And I don't know, right? I'm just kind of being Daniel. I mean, I've had success. We've always been successful. I've always had, some financial monies in the bank and everything, but it was just a different level of approaching and seeing. And so I'm there and I'm like, hey, he was limping. He was going to get on stage and he goes, man, I can't walk. I'm tired. Hey, well, let's say a prayer. And he's like, okay. And I turn back around because there's 300 people in the conference room. He's getting ready to speak on stage. He goes, well, come on, son, let's go. I'm like, what? Because you're going to pray? Let's pray right now. I'm like, I didn't expect that from him. And at that moment, God showed me, right? God showed me that we all bring value to the marketplace in our own unique way. So I'm like, okay. So I just prayed with him and we said a prayer and he was walking up there and he got on stage. He threw his cane. He goes, thank you, Brother Daniel, for praying for me. I feel great. And I was like, well, praise God, right? But I say this because I brought what I had to the marketplace. So many times we don't even bring our gift to the marketplace, Gary. And I prayed for him. And next thing you know, he was calling me like a week later, months later. We're still friends, but it's like we all bring something of value to the marketplace. I'm going to keep saying that because when you bring value, people will pay you for the amount of value that you bring. So think about what I said. They give you like Gary said, money can be shells, money can be bananas, whatever it is. But the $100 bills that we see, it's just a form of giving a value. Because if Gary's a banana grower, he can't bring me a 1,000 bananas. And how am I going to start 1,000 bananas? It's just the commodity that's exchanged. That's what a dollar paper, it's ink on paper. But I say that because I brought what I had that day to Dr. James Dentley. And we just stayed in touch and he's helped me along my career because the value I brought to him that day. Give us your perspective on what I just said, Gary.
The word that, again, you're using, I'm a big word guy, and the value is value, or the word is value. And what I've come to understand is we don't value ourselves. And what I suggest for people to look at is what they see, what we see as ordinary, other people see as extraordinary. We all have gifts, and a gift is only valuable when it's opened.
Yes.
Think about that. It's just like we have the gift of life. What are we going to do with it? Where are we just carbon, object walking around to hold one generation to another generation? Where's the value? And there's so many stories of where people say, it's I forget it's not a sin, but it's really sad when the song dies within a person, when the book dies within the person, when the people that they're helping, they don't even realize the value they're giving when they're giving all they have. And so it may be a prayer, it may be a smile at Starbucks, it may be just paying attention to what is going on around you. The other day coming down to the conference, I was in a restaurant at the airport and bought a soldier's dinner or breakfast that was sitting next to me. I don't know his name. I don't know. It was just a way of being another human being to another human being. To me, that's wealth. And going back to money, if I didn't have any excess dollars, I couldn't do that for another human being. And so when people look at opportunities in the giving realm, in fact, I always have a additional giving number in my business above and beyond our family. I make that part of my business plan, not just my family plan. And so that gives me that energy to go out and create even more so I can give even more. But what I see as ordinary, other people see as extraordinary, is a magical formula, because then we start seeing that we do have a purpose, we do have a mission if we choose to accept it.
Listen to what he's saying, ladies and gentlemen. Gary just dropped some wisdom right there. He was there, came down, was traveling, and he bought somebody lunch, dinner. And maybe it seems like, well, that's nothing big. Well, it is. Think about it. Why not? It's huge because it says two things, what money allows you to do without breaking yourself. Money allows you to contribute and money allows you to help people. Write that down. Money allows you to contribute. Money is contribution. Money is helping people. Money allows you to help people. And when you have an excess of it, right? It doesn't, it makes it easier. Who can you not help? And I'm a big believer, Gary, that money's like, you're a farmer with money. The more seeds you plant throughout the world, throughout the universe, God's gonna bless you with more, because He's gonna come back to you and say, "Well done, good and faithful servant," and to just hoarding it. And there's a story there where there was a farmer that he had all these crops, and he had such an amazing season. Just imagine having a record-breaking year in business. All these corn ears were just beautiful, and instead of distributing, he goes, "You know what? I'm going to make a bigger barn and save double." And guess what? He lost everything because of greed. And I will say that there is many multimillionaires, many millionaires out there that are giving, that ain't greedy. So if that's the belief that's holding you back in business. Maybe you don't want to. Maybe your mom told you, "Man, rich people are greedy." No, they're not.
My
Gary's rich
mother,
and he's giving his time here on the show.
well, my mother actually told me, I told her when I was very, very young, I said I was going to be a millionaire. And she said, no, you can't. You have to be a criminal. You have to be dishonest to be a millionaire. And then I told her I was going to be a pastor. And she goes, no, you can't be a pastor because you have to have a calling from God. So evidently she had a red phone. When I left the formal ministry, she said, no, you turned your back on God. I could have win, but you're right. You're so right that it is that hoarding is where things go stale. And money is a flow in our economy, in a free system economy. The if you look at a recession, that's when people start thinking bad thoughts and they start pulling back their spending habits. A depression is when everybody thinks bad thoughts and they stop spending, because we're in this flow, but it's in a flow. What I'm proposing is that it's a conscious choice of why you're spending, not just for, okay, I'm going to go out and spend money just to feel good. I'm doing it for other reasons. Now,
Yeah.
that to do go to some show or whatever to feel good is not bad. To go to Disney World is not bad. That's an investment. It's investment in yourself, memories, your family, but having that conscious decision instead of the knee-jerk one.
I love what you're saying. So let's shift a little bit here. When was there a time in your life when you lost your confidence when it came to money? And what did
Long
you do
time.
to regain it? And what did you learn about yourself? Because I think so many times we see the successful. I see you as very successful. I respect you and love you. But we all go through those times that grow us and develop our character. When is the time you lost your confidence in money? And what did you learn about yourself?
It was very young. I had a job that I wasn't legally supposed to have. I was a day, I, I was a day bell captain at the Riviera Hotel and Country Club in Palm Springs, and this was back in the uh, early '70s, or oh golly, in the '60s. But I don't want to tell people how old I am. It's terrible. But anyway, and it was really terrible because in the '60s, I was getting 50 cents an hour in wages. But if I wasn't bringing in $20 an hour, that gasoline at that point was 70 cents, $1.25. I mean, you're talking about filling up your car for $5. It just was ridiculous. But anyway, I'd go home. We were not satisfied, and I was buying my girlfriend roses every week and stereo systems, and I had people coming out. Everybody wanted to be around me, and money was flowing. Everything was great. And when the money stopped, everybody went away. And what I realized is money was, in my mind, was the cause of everybody going away. Instead of looking at what I was doing with the money and how my relationship with money and then with people was the problem. It wasn't the money itself. And so it took me some time to look back and start saying, okay, what is it that was truly valuable to me? What was it that is more of that life lesson? And, it's interesting. I went to college, married my wife from connections in college, and she's a preacher's kid. And when you have the old preacher's kid, the PKs, uh, a lot of preachers don't have a lot of money. I mean, they have to scrimp. They're living in, church houses. And I think that is, by the way, so wrong. We should be paying them abundance, not peanuts just because, anyway, that's another issue. Um,
Yes.
but I was dealing with my wife in her, where it was always, well, can we afford it? And they always bought quality, but they didn't have a lot. And so as the years went on, even for her, she would buy quality, and she worked in hospitals. And the nurses and doctors said, your husband must be really wealthy. You're wearing designer clothes and designer bags and shoes. And no, she was going to the consignment store in Goodwill. She was finding the good stuff. And so it was what it did for us, not what the image was for. And I was using money at the early age for, look at me, I was a day bell captain. I have all this money. I have all these friends. I have a nice car. And I had a brand new 19, so you'll appreciate this. I had a 1972 Dodge Challenger 4x4 slapstick. I mean, beautiful, baby sky blue, white interior, white. And my brother wrecked it within 30 days of my receiving it. They weren't even making spare parts. And
Wow.
so that was a wake up call too. Here I was using this as my
So,
image.
so do you think that goes back? Because okay, I love what you're talking about, right? But what I've seen is with my clients is that sometimes when you get this all this success, it's like you don't have the capacity to handle it. And
Correct.
it sounds like you had all this success as a bellman, and you were, you were kind of like a overnight success to say, and all of a sudden you don't have the character, you don't have the capacity to handle this, and guess what? You're like, it's too much, and you self-destruct. What comes to mind? I've said this before. If you think back, maybe 20 years ago when Britney Spears made it big and blew up, boom. Then next thing you know, she's like, "Oh, right, baby, I did it again." And then next thing you know, she's shaving her head in a beauty salon because she lost it. And then her dad took control of her finances because she didn't have the capacity for that. But not to say anything bad about her, but this happens to many, many people that get overnight success, literally, right? What I mean, from one day to the next, and they can't handle the spotlight, and they self-destruct.
And I don't think it's the character. I think it's the education. We don't have anybody to give us perspective in a positive, rich way of how to handle what it really is. Because money is used as guilt and shame and control in our society. And, it wasn't intended for that. When you look at, you look at Christ, he wasn't technically wealthy, but everything he needed was provided. He needed to pay his taxes, go to the fish, take the coin out of the mouth, and there you go. I mean, it's where I think society has broken down is that when we went to total consumerism after World War II, because that's where we went into the baby boom, the housing, the cars, that we escalated consumerism from that point. I'm not a uh, I don't downplay consumerism in reality, because we need to consume products and services for the economy to grow. But if we need it for our identity, now that's a problem. Years ago, I was
Oh,
racing
I
cars.
love that. Say that again. Say that again.
If we if we need wealth for our identity, that's where we go wrong. I mean, it will always be lacking because there's always going to be somebody that has the bigger car, shinier car, bigger
Yes.
house, whatever.
But
Doesn't
I
matter.
want to just show a point here is that it's okay if you like it, get it. Think about what Gary just said. Like for me, Gary, last, and I'm just going to be totally real because I mean that's who I am. Last year when we bought this house that we're in right now, we got my studio here, we got the horseshoe driveway. People were like, "Well, oh, well, did they really need a bigger house?" And it's like, "Well, it doesn't matter. I like it. I didn't buy the house to get validation from you or anybody else. I got it because that's what I wanted and my wife wanted, and it was a dream of ours. We got it." And then as I was making my play, because I'm really this past year I was really going after executives and executive coaching because an executive client is going to pay me what 10 or 12 regular clients are going to pay me to say. So I went out there and I purchased a Porsche, but it was because first of all I liked it. I didn't buy it to say, "Hey, look at me." No, it was I bought it because that's what Daniel liked. That's what I wanted. And so many people are scared to get what they want, Gary, because oh, what is my neighbor going to say? What is my cousin going to say? What is my sister going to say? If you want something because you like it, you genuinely like it, go get it. You don't need anybody's permission to buy a new home, to buy a car. People will always be passing on their insecurities on you. And I say this from experience, Gary, because there was a person that really hurt me. And I was like, but I had to get over it, right? Because it's like it's their own insecurities, not mine. But it's something amazing happened is once we the reality, not the perspective, but the reality is that our living had grown. Well, guess what? Higher paying clients came along my way, and it wasn't by accident. Because now when I'm have my car, I have access to areas in San Antonio that I know. Oh yeah, park there, sir, or park there, or hey, they don't even question you. But I don't say that arrogantly. I say it because it's the truth. So if you're buying something because you want it, then go for it. But if you're buying something to seek validation from people like Gary said from the outside, then you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah, you're always going to have haters. And the thing that I've always wanted to have happen is if people to see me and they said, if Gary can do it, I can do it.
Yes.
It's that, come along, I'll teach you, I'll share with you, I'll make connections. I mean, it just, whatever it is that I can do to help you attain whatever level of what you consider success. And one of my Garyisms is life is a solo journey traveled with many. And so why am I comparing to you, Daniel? There's no reason to. And my wife and I both drive BMW. And people have said, well, you're doing it, and I go, no, I enjoy the car. I enjoy convertibles. I enjoy, and then, and,
Yes. Yes. I'm gonna give you a. I'm buying a BMW because I'm driving it because I like it. Let me do another one.
it's not to impress anybody. And,
Yes.
it's like when you are introduced on stage and people say, wow, that's an amazing introduction, all this. I go, yeah, you take that intro and $7 and you go to Starbucks, they'll give you a cup of coffee. When you start believing your own PR, when you start believing your own bottom line, it's, I remember a story, and he's probably not real popular with some groups right now, but Donald Trump, back in the 70s, when he lost all of the money, I mean, he went broke. He was $1 billion, a billion with a B, $1 billion in the hole. And he was walking down the street in New York with his then wife. And she saw a beggar and she goes, can you believe that? He goes, what are you talking about? He's $1 billion richer than I am right now, than you are. But within a year, he was a billionaire again. It was that knowledge of where the money came from, how to get, it's the logic and the emotion working together to create true wealth.
I love what we're talking about. Gary, what's your before we end this amazing episode, I'm loving what you're dropping out. What are 2 words of wisdom that you can give us when it comes to money and finances?
Oh, golly, 2 words. The two that just popped into my mind was act now. Act now. I'm not sure how that applies, except that don't wait. Act now. Put and by the way, budgets don't work. It's spending plans, because budgets are going to be wrong every single month. And psychologically, we can't handle that. But act now, put a plan together, sit down. This is, well, any time is a great time to do this, but what really matters? When I was in my chaplaincy training, they had us go to our own funerals. We had to write what was going to be on our tombstone and what was going to be our epitaph. And so when the trip is over, what makes the trip worthwhile taking? And so make those determinations. And also, nothing is set in stone. At one point, I wanted a Lamborghini because I was racing them. And then I realized I couldn't race them on the road the way I was doing on the track. And so why did I need a $750,000 car to impress my neighbor at my garage? I wanted the experience. And so, but what is really important to you? What is it? What is your Christmas list? What is the things you want to give society, to your family, to yourself, to your spouse, whoever, how do you make a difference? But
Gary, let me ask you this. Is it okay to be rich?
absolutely.
Why? Somebody needs to
Because
hear this.
for me, rich and wealth equals choice. Without it, we in our society, the way it's put together, you lose the power of choice.
Boom,
You,
baby. Woohoo! Tell us the power of choice.
the power of choice is where we live, what we do, what education our children can achieve, it really what foods we eat, what gyms we're able to, time off. How many
Yes.
people, they are working 24/7 almost, 365, and they're just nose to the grindstone. That was my dad. He was always up at the service station. They opened at 6 and they closed at 9, 10 o'clock. I never saw my dad. He was always working. And, that's something that we could never get back. So that time that we can buy back for ourselves, to have wealth doesn't mean what we work more necessarily. Let's enjoy in fact, in my financial planning firm, I had created a lifestyle for my family that I did not participate in. I was making I was receiving a tremendous amount of money every year. And so everybody around me was seeing how successful I was until one day I realized I had really messed up. I was not seeing my boys grow up. I was not participating in their school and their sports and whatever. And when I changed, particularly in college, I went all over. I mean, people were going, "You're nuts," because I was watching my kids play baseball in college and the theater or whatever it was. I was there. But the sad part is that as I look back, I can never get those memories that I lost in those earlier years. And it was a choice. Even though I had money, I had it was a perspective that um, wasn't good.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're looking back at your notes, what you wrote down, and I'm going to go over mine with you. I'm going to start off with the last thing he said. Being rich gives you choices. There's nothing wrong with being wealthy. There's nothing wrong with being rich. There's nothing wrong with you. Maybe an affirmation you're going to tell yourself after listening to this show is, I am rich. I am wealthy. Start saying that to yourself because it gives you choices. And listen to what he said. Listen to his heart. The biggest choice it gives you freedom to be, do, and have whatever you want to do. If you want to take a week off, a day off, go have lunch with your wife, go see your sons, daughters' games. It gives you choices of what you want to do. So let go of those limiting beliefs that say money is for greedy people. Rich people are greedy. Rich people are buttheads. No, they're not. Because I'm interviewing one right now, and he's amazing. He's loving. He's giving. He's wealthy, and he's rich. And he was generous enough to give us his time here today. So think about this. Write this question down before we end this episode and ask yourself, what beliefs about money do I need to change? Write it down and work on that here this whole year in 2022, because that very belief is keeping your life from elevating and is keeping your business from growing because you have the wrong relationships with money and finances.
Could I expand on that?
Yeah, please.
So I agree with you. Write down your beliefs about what money is. And if that belief serves you, keep it and remind yourself of it. If it doesn't, write the beliefs that will counteract that belief. Because when we eliminate something, we create a void. We create a vacuum, and something has to go into the vacuum. That is physics. So if we don't create a new belief to counteract that, and when I hear an old belief, there's other stories, but I use the word "scratch that," because I hear the belief, scratch that, that I put the new belief, because I catch myself, I'm human, and I catch myself, but I have to do it at the moment it happens. It's not something later on.
Yes. Gary, how do we get a hold of you, my friend? Somebody listening to this episode and they're like,
It's really easy. I handle all my own emails. So it's Gary at Gary Burns, BARNES, international, spelled out.com.
brother, thank you so much for being on here on the show. What an amazing episode. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap for this week's episode. Join us next week here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, where we're going to bring you another amazing guest. If you're stuck in life, if you're stuck in business, if you need help with your money mindset and develop that millionaire mindset, reach out to me at danielgomezglobal.com. That's danielgomezglobal.com. And we'll reset your belief system. And we'll, like Gary said, scratch it and create new ones. Email me at daniel@danielgomezspeaker.com. And we want to give you a complimentary discovery session to help you break through those belief systems that ain't serving you anymore, because you deserve to be wealthy, you deserve to be rich, and you are worthy and deserving of God's best. We'll see you next week, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. Woo! This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to DanielGomezInspires.com and get your copy today. That's DanielGomezInspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.